Carbon dioxide is also a kind of a hormone. It's not the waste gas as we always consider it to be, and we have to get rid of it. We have to get rid of a part of it, but we need carbon dioxide to regulate the system. And in this way, we can consider carbon dioxide as a hormone because it regulates many parts of our system, just as nitrogen monoxide is getting produced in the body, in the cells, in all the cells of our body produce this. So actually, all of the cells of our body in this way are kind of glands, work as a glands. So what do we need carbon dioxide for? First of all, we need carbon dioxide to regulate the binding, the power of binding between the hemoglobin molecule and the oxygen molecule. So the carbon dioxide regulates the power of binding between the molecules of hemoglobin and oxygen. Then the carbon dioxide also regulates the dilation of the vessels, just like nitrogen monoxide, where nitrogen monoxide dilates very quickly, quick reaction, and carbon dioxide in the long run, slow. Okay? So when we build up carbon dioxide, we dilate our blood vessels, the pulse falls. Okay? And in this way, it also communicates, just like nitrogen monoxide, with the parasympathetic nervous system. Parasympathetic nervous system, it goes like branches from the head branch, which is our spine. From the higher part of the spine, we get sympathetic branches, and parasympathetic is under the sympathetic. So it's called parasympathetic. Under the sympathetic is from the lower part of the spine. So we get relaxation branches from the lower part of the spine, and anxiety and reaction to the stress from the higher part of the spine. So again, carbon dioxide also as a hormone both works with tension between the molecules and releasing of oxygen to the cells, dilating the blood vessels and the breathing vessels, which are bronchs and bronchioles in the long run, and works together with parasympathetic system. And the third thing, just as nitrogen monoxide, it regulates the communication between neurons. Neurons are the cells of a nervous system, communication between neurons. So we need carbon dioxide. That's what I mean.
So the CO2 goes out from the cells back to the lungs.
Yeah, to the alveoles.
To the alveoles.
And get through a membrane.
Yes.
Exhale.
But this is a chain between, again, the hemoglobin and molecule of CO2.
Yeah.
Which goes like this.
No,
how do they go out from the cell?
Yeah, that's a very good question.
And come back to
it goes actually in both as a gas blended directly with the fluid, but also as a fluid. So CO2 is actually in our body, the most of the CO2 as a fluid.
Which goes through the blood?
Bicarbonate, yeah. It goes as a bicarbonate into the blood. And then the reaction of bicarbonate with the water, it releases CO2. It's chemical reactions. So it's always chemical reactions. When you say H2O plus CO2, it makes H2CO3. So it always, this kind of reaction and releasing a molecule of hydrogen to ion of hydrogen. It's chemistry. So it's always, there's a kind of chemistry between the gas and the fluid. and then the CO2 gets from the cell as a fluid in the bloodstream, in the plasma, in the blood plasma, not with the hemoglobin, but with the blood plasma,
Okay.
which actually mostly water, H2O.
Yeah.
So that's why the CO2 binds with water, because the plasma mostly consists of water. And then this H2CO3 releases as a part of the chemical reaction to in the membrane wall of alveoli. It gets CO2 as a gas through the membrane wall, and the water is back in the plasma.
Okay.
Okay, that's very simply put, but it's a very good question. So the oxygen is getting carried by the red blood cells, okay, and the this
CO2 comes
from
back
yes, and the
through the
CO2 comes
plasma.
back through the plasma, binding as a fluid, not as a gas.
Yeah.
Actually, also a part of CO2 is getting carried actually as direct a blend of gas into the fluid too, and in some other ways, but we don't need to talk about it. It's just to remember that the CO2 is getting carried by the plasma back, because it's produced in the cell, simply put, and the oxygen we take it from the outside, and it's getting carried by the hemoglobin, which is the product which is filled in the red blood cell. Red blood cells are filled with the hemoglobin. Okay, and every hemoglobin molecules bind to a oxygen molecule. So it's actually a bind of two spheres together.
Okay.
Okay. So what is interesting here? Again, how can we change all of this? How can we control it? How can we reverse? So the process of illness can be reversed to a process of healing ourselves by our own means and by our own perception. It is possible because when we stop hyperventilation, breathing too much, when we relax our breathing muscle, so we actually diminish the volume of air we inhale and the depth of inhalation. The depths mean, how we always work by these muscles. It has to work. Our breathing has to work with the diaphragm muscle, which is looks like an umbrella. And beneath this umbrella, we have all of our internal organs, all of our glands. So actually, when we stop breathing, when we are stressed, when we stop breathing with our diaphragm muscle and use our intercostal muscles, which are muscles of the breast, we actually stop massaging our glands. We stop massaging our intestines. So we change actually the way our intestines get vitamins and get the vital stuff from the food we get, because our massaging muscles is a part of the digestion, and our massaging muscle is not only breathing muscle, it's also massaging muscle. The diaphragm is massaging the glands, so they are not getting dry, but they are vital all the time, so they can produce all the hormones we need. Okay? So when we change by relaxing the muscle, we actually stop exhaling by force. That's what's happening. If we see the breathing process in the sick it goes like that. In, out, like. We work inhaling, we work exhaling. So the muscles work actually having air in and pulling air in and forcing the air out. But it's not normal for the normal functioning of the body. Normal functioning of the body goes like this: inhalation, exhalation, little pause, inhalation, little exhalation, and pause. So exhalation is always bigger than the inhalation. Okay? And you see, in the sick, if we say that when we work with the muscle is red, when we relax the muscle is green. So in the sick, it's red, work with the muscle, diaphragm muscle. In the normal, it's red, work with the muscle, green. The muscle is elastic. So when we work with the muscle has to come back again in the startup position. But we don't need to press it. We just need muscle to be elastic. And the air to slowly come out of the lungs. But when we are stressed, we don't have time to let it slowly come out. So we press it. Okay? So what we do, we relax the breathing muscle during the day. We calm the breathing. And we ensure that we're not breathing with intercostal muscles, with breast muscles, but we're always breathing with diaphragm. That's what we do when we are focusing in Hara. We connect our focus with the sense of the diaphragm muscle. Wow! That is a very good balance. Okay? So if we use the original phrase by Dr. Buteyko, he used to say, answering the question, now, what is your, it's very complicated, what is your method about? He used to say, it's actually very simple. My method of voluntary cessation of hyperventilation, voluntary stopping the hyperventilation, voluntary because you know what you're doing by purpose. So it is about diminishing the volume and the depth of breathing by relaxing the breathing muscle. Diminishing the volume and the depth the depth of breathing by relaxing your breathing muscle.